Hello, and welcome to the lore of Braunhaven. Today we're going to continue our exploration of the continent of Tlaxiuitl, and we will be discussing the pantheon of gods that the Actui people worship. So, there's a bunch of gods in Tlaxiuitl, and I guess it's not necessarily that there are a bunch of gods, and more so that the Actui people believe that everything has a spirit to it, and these spirits are always worshipped or honored in some way. Everything from that rock over there to the spirit of this river is worshipped, or the tree spirits. And so when you look at this, it can get quite confusing on what is a spirit, what is a god, and there are literally over 400 gods that are worshipped across Tlaxuitl. And of course, any work or any video is not going to be able to cover all aspects of that religion. But there are some major deities that are always at the topmost. It should also be noted that the Actui people wouldn't necessarily be considered a peaceful people. They make war uh, frequently upon one another, and they frequently focus their warlike efforts on the Ruel, which is a subhuman race that has splintered off from the Actui people in Tlaxuitl. And so they frequently make war, and we'll get to one of the reasons why they do that, and it's not always about conquest. There's other reasons that they may do it, but there are just a plethora of spirits that are worshipped, and these are the gods that are kind of at the top of the list. They are always honored and revered for whatever reason. And so the first of those gods is the god Omiaquatl, and he is also known as Nahua and the feathered serpent, or the vision serpent. And he is a greater god, and he is his provinces are the sun, wind, creation, life, knowledge, learning, the arts, crafting, leadership, and priestly office. And kind of leadership and priestly office are often one and the same. He resides in the 12th heaven of the celestial palace, and there are major temples to Omiaquatl all throughout every major settlement of the Actui, whether it be just there's no real towns. The Actui go from city to village, and that's it. That is their normal mode of settlement. But every one of them has at least a shrine. You might find a shrine that is dedicated to Omiaquatl in a village, whereas in the city there are three major cities that all have major temples, and these are usually tall, very steep step pyramids, and those will be dedicated to Omiaquatl. So he is revered as the creator of the known world. The Actui people do not hold to the more common pantheon of the old gods that are represented on the continent of Zandamar. They believe that Omiaquatl created the known world, and he created the Actui people. And interestingly, this depiction of him creating the Actui people. So in Orentis, the Jade Queen, and we'll get to Orentis at another point, but the Jade Queen in their pantheon is said to have created the Orentian people by fashioning them from the clay of mud along a riverbank, and she fashioned the Orentians from that. It's very similar with Omiaquatl, that he fashioned the Actui from bones and mud, and basically made them uh, not necessarily in his likeness, but he that is how he crafted these people. And so he is often depicted as a winged serpent with rainbow-colored scales and iridescent feathers. That's one aspect. Another aspect is just pointing to the sky and the sun. That's it. You know, he is the sun. And it is believed that during the day he rises from the dead in the morning and travels across the sky to be killed at night by his brother Tlaxiuitl. And it is this aspect of birth, death, and rebirth every day that really holds the strongest connection religiously for the Actui people. This is something that they have strongly latched onto, is this idea of birth, death, rebirth, and they believe that this is a natural state of mortals. Is that when you die, you will be reincarnated, or you will live again. Common common things that Tlaxiuitl is attributed to is that he is the one who gave the knowledge of cultivating coffee, cacao, tobacco, and maize to the women of the Actui people, thus making those crops very prized among the people. In fact, the Actui, they don't the ancient Actui Empire didn't have a currency or a type of coin that was used. And this holds true even to the current age, is that they most of the time are trading, bartering, either in produced farmed goods or even manufactured goods, or services. They trade back and forth, but they don't really have a currency. But the one thing that they do often trade is cacao beans, and sometimes tobacco. Cacao beans, bits and baubles of jade. They might they might find a pretty seashell, and they will trade in that. But they haven't really placed a permanent monetary value on such items. It's really more of whoever the person is. What value do they place on it? Cacao beans are probably the closest to that, but even so, there isn't a conversion method where you can say 20 cacao beans equals 1 gold piece. That doesn't exist. It's whoever is accepting that currency, what they value it as. And so part of this, that is part of the reason that these crops are so prized. Not to mention the fact that maize, the Actui people eat corn with just about every meal, either in its regular format, just eating, maize on the cob, or turning it into a flour to make tortilla-like patties and whatnot. It's eaten with everything. Human sacrifice plays a huge part in the worship of Tlaxiuitl. The Actui believe that sacrifice is necessary for the sun to continue its travel across the sky. And they usually hold these sacrifices mid-month, pretty much at regular intervals, or really whenever the head priest decides that it's time to sacrifice. They'll sacrifice the losing team of an athletic game, and the Actui people, and this is especially in the cities, but there are smaller versions of it throughout the villages. There is this athletic competition known as Tlaxiuitl, and it is a kind of a cross between soccer and maybe basketball, where there are multiple holes. They have courts that are set up, and there are holes that are set up throughout. And the teams, the point, of course, is that whoever gets the most, this ball gets it into the hole the highest number of times is the winner. The losing team is usually sacrificed. They have large numbers of sacrifices that are, of course, held after any battle, because they'll take prisoners from whoever it is that they fought, and those guys are going to be sacrificed. And they are usually sacrificed at the top, very top of these steep step pyramids. And this is done in honor of Omiaquatl's blessing for them winning the battle. And it's during these sacrifices that it is common that they'll drink concoctions of coffee or cacao that has been mixed with hallucinogenic mushrooms that kind of allows the people that are viewing this to feel closer to they enter like a dreamlike state, and they feel closer to Omiaquatl as the feathered serpent. But it's also common that they'll give it to those that are about to be sacrificed, mostly just to calm them down. So, as I said, Omiaquatl's brother is Tlaxiuitl, and he is known as the Smoking Mirror, the Mountain Heart, the Jaguar God, and overall he is the ruler of darkness. He is a greater god, and his provinces are providence, invisibility, and the night sky, and war. He, as his overall disposition, is neutral evil. So Tlaxiuitl can really be depicted as kind of a very selfish god. And he often accepts sacrifices at temples of jaguar pelts that are left at altars while burning incense or playing a flute in his temple. And he does have holy days that are the 5th through the 22nd day of the month of Massus, or during any solar eclipse. And so the Actui people are highly, highly attuned to celestial events. And they make these great calendar discs that are tracked in ages of 1,000 years. And they can look at the skies and depict or really anticipate these celestial events and mark them on these calendars, and they do it ahead of time, so they know when a solar or lunar eclipse is coming. And during during an eclipse, they will have sacrifices to Tlaxiuitl. They'll have a great festival, and there will be a lot of people that are going to be stabbed with the obsidian knife. So he's the brother and also the nemesis of Omiaquatl. It is believed that he is the ruler of darkness, and he slays his brother Omiaquatl every night, and that causes the sun to set. That then allows the jaguar god to reign over the world until morning, when Omiaquatl is then reborn. He's usually depicted as a powerfully built, shirtless man with the head of a jaguar, and he is revered by warriors of pretty much all stripes. But he is actually the patron god of the Jaguar Knights, and they are this fearsome elite order of knights. Really, they're all clerics, and they are found in pretty much all of the major, all three, each of the Actui cities in the mountains. And so, these guys are considered, apex warriors for the pantheon of the mortals. And there are great festivals that are held between the 5th and 25th day of the month of Massus that are certainly punctuated with human sacrifices of prisoners, slaves, etc. On the final day of this festival, from the 5th through 25th of Massus, they select a young warrior, and he is to be the impersonator of Tlaxiuitl for the rest of the year. And he is required to dress like the jaguar god, wearing a mask and a jaguar pelt. And he's expected to wear that all the time. He's never to be seen in public outside of his disguise as Tlaxiuitl for the rest of the year. And of course, at the end of the year, he's going to be sacrificed, and they pick a new one. But in order to be, it's considered to be a massive, great honor to be selected to do this, and they have some very strict rules about who will be selected. He must be thin, but he has to be muscular. He cannot have any blemishes or scars, and essentially deemed otherwise perfect in every way. And once they find that person, then they make him, and he will wear that headdress and cloak in public, and he will never step out of character. And then in the following year, at the end of the festival, he will be sacrificed, and they'll pick a new one. It is a odd ritual, but one that the Actui people, and especially the Jaguar Knights, kind of makes them feel closer to their gods. Next, we have the goddess Tlaxiuitl, and she is known as the flayed goddess. She is the mistress of the seasons. She's really a lesser goddess, but her provinces are regeneration, agriculture, fertility, war, goldsmiths, silversmiths, and jade. And she resides in the ninth heaven of the celestial palace. And there are several shrines that can be found in Chinampas, small temples that can be found in villages and cities, and the like. She has a disposition of neutral. She doesn't pick sides, one or the other. And sacrifices for Tlaxiuitl are leaving maize at shrines for her. One superstition that is a big no-no for them in the worship of Tlaxiuitl is the stealing of any item that is made of gold, silver, or jade. And so that is a high crime according to the worship of this goddess. She's usually seen as the patron of agriculture and fertility, and the Actui people see a direct relation between agriculture and fertility. Which of course there is, really. And it's said that the women of the Actui who touch the flayed skin of someone who has been sacrificed during one of Tlaxiuitl's festivals, that usually happens in the spring or autumn equinoxes, will soon be with child. She will bear children fairly soon if she touches the flayed skin of the sacrificed. The Actui also see Tlaxiuitl as a goddess, not necessarily 100% of war, but yes, she does have an aspect. And they believe that war is tied very closely to fertility and agriculture, and it is so much so that oftentimes the ground where a battle has taken place will then be turned into farmland. And they believe that this ground that has been soaked with the blood of other Actui suddenly is very fertile, and it somehow is pleasing to Tlaxiuitl. And so they believe that any crops that are grown there will flourish and be fruitful. She, of course, is a great lover of gold, silver, and jade. And as I said, anybody who steals any of those metals or stones is outright a pariah. They are arrested. They are dragged through the streets. Usually, they will be dragged through the streets during her festival. They will have a jade ball that is attached to their ankle, making it difficult, hobbling them, making it difficult for them to be marched through the street. And then they will be taken to the top of her temple, where their heart will be cut out with an obsidian knife, and their flesh will be flayed from their body. Warriors that are captured in battles will face gladiatorial sacrifice, where they are tied to a jade block, unable to to move beyond the length of rope or chain that or leather thong that they are tied to. And they are given a sword that it's called a makualitl. It looks like a cricket bat, and except that it has grooves along the sides and up to the top, and they put obsidian blades into these grooves. Except that in this gladiatorial sacrifice, the captured warrior is tied to this jade block, and he's given one of these cricket bats that the blades have been replaced with feathers, and he is then forced to fight off a fully armed jaguar knight, and which is unlikely. But if he succeeds, he is then sacrificed by being shot and filled with arrows. So he's going to go one way or the other in honor of Tlaxiuitl for having lost a battle. She is usually depicted as a flayed pregnant woman, and this flaying of the pregnant woman represents the maize losing its husk and thus giving way to life-saving food. Next, we have Tlaxiuitl, who has a disposition of chaos and evil. Her provinces are magic, illusions, witchcraft, and lies. Her holy days are the winter solstice. Sacrifices to Tlaxiuitl is usually stolen jade totems that are carved in her sister Tlaxiuitl's likeness and left at her shrine. So you have to steal the jade. It has to be carved into her sister's likeness and then left at her shrine in order to worship her. And her big superstition is that you are not to invoke her name for any purpose beyond the crafting of spells. And so you just don't talk about her. That's pretty much it. She's forever jealous of her sister Tlaxiuitl because of her fertility. And Tlaxiuitl is usually depicted as a long snake that has the head of a woman with long dark hair, and she is well known to weave spells, corrupt men with her lies, and she's essentially seen as the ultimate seductress, usually playing one side against the other, all for nothing more than her amusement. Her shrines are usually hidden in the dense jungle or placed near a cenote. On the winter solstice, her followers will keep an eye on a village, and they will select a virgin from that village that they will then sneak in at night, kidnap, and sacrifice during the winter rains at Tlaxiuitl's shrine. And the last god that the Actui people worship is Tlaxiuitl. They're really a god. They're a demigod, and they are the guide of the Underdeep, ruler of the dead. And their temples are usually carved out of deep caves or in underwater or underwater caves at the bottom of cenotes. And their holy day is Veil's Eve, very similar to many of the gods, such as Octus in the continent of Zandamar. And so the Actui people believe that when one dies, they then mummify their corpse, and they believe that this mummified corpse will rise and then make their way through the Underdeep on their passage to the Shadow Realm. And they replicate this journey in these maze-like halls that are carved out of deep caves that are found in jungles or in underwater caves that have air pockets that are found at the bottom of a lot of cenotes. And on Veil's Eve, they commonly have this festival where some of their followers will ingest hallucinogenic mushrooms and then attempt to make their way through these maze-like caverns. And if they find their way out, then it is said that they are guaranteed a safe passage to the Shadow Realm when it's time for them to die. Very rarely do these people make it out. Most of them become lost forever in the maze, usually dying of hunger or thirst. Others get trapped when they try to make their way through narrow crevices in an attempt to forge a new path through the maze, and they get stuck and then they die. So it's not very frequent that these people make it out of the mazes, and usually that's kind of considered another form of sacrifice. But usually there's not a whole mess of these people. At each festival on Vale's Eve, you might have 5 or 6 that decide that it is their time, and usually they're going to be one of two types of person is going to do this. They're either old and they are, realizing they don't have a lot of years left and they want to make sure that their passage to the Shadow Realm is going to be as easy as possible. And the other one are young warriors that are expecting to have to go to battle within the next year or fairly soon, and so they want to make sure that their passage to the Shadow Realm is as easy as possible in case they die on the battlefield. And so you don't have a bunch of people doing this. It's not like the entire village packs up and gets high to go through the caves. No, there's only 5 or 6 people that usually do this per year. Some years it's even lower than that. Maybe there's only 2 or 3 people. That it is an event that happens nearly every year. So those are the gods of Tlaxiuitl, and a little bit closer look at the religion as it applies to the Actui. Next time, we will be taking a look at the settlements. Particularly, we'll be looking at Port Boniface Antoine on the eastern coast of Tlaxiuitl. Thank you for watching, and we'll check you out next time.